Okay, what's up, guys? Thank you, Mike and Mark, for being here. I'm sure other people will join a little bit later. Tatiana's going to be with us a little bit later, hopefully. But I've got some stuff that's actually really exciting to show you. Yeah, it looks like Tatiana's right, and she has been right a lot right in the past, so it doesn't surprise me. But you never can really know if the bottom's in until the chop is all said and done. So I do think we've still got some chop left, just sideways mostly. Maybe alts will revisit, you know, areas just above its bottom, things like that. And there could be one or two, well, maybe not one or two, but a handful of alts that still need to go down a little bit more. I mean, it just happens because not all alts are equal. Some are stronger than others. We know that. So we want to talk about the ones that are strong, right? So we'll get into that. What I want to show you here at the beginning is this is kind of like the main part of the thing I wanted to present, and then we'll get into the questions. We'll get into all the fun stuff about talking about targets. But this is ETH Bitcoin pair, and the reason why I like to look at this one is because this one's been beaten down harder than just about any altcoin there is, and the fact that it's such an important altcoin, it's like the silver to Bitcoin to gold is what a lot of people say. We can use it as a roadmap. So let's look. I think this is probably the best view. This is the bottom for January 2016, February, right in there. No, it's January. And what I wanted to show you, I love fractals because, people talk about Wyckoff, they talk about Elliott wave. Well, all of that's already baked into fractals. So if you get the fractal right, then all that other stuff doesn't matter. As long as you're sure that the fractal is correct and that the bottom has been carved out or is being carved out, then there's no need to look at that other stuff. So now that we're at the bottom, which I feel that we are after looking at what I looked at today, we can actually look at these fractals and say, okay, we might be here, we might be here, and that's what we're going to look at. So the very bottom of this one was October 2015. And which is interesting, right? I mean, Q4 always seems like the point where things bottom. So that's why I think there might be some more sideways, kind of chopping up and down. And then we take off sometime October, November. That's generally, and I'll tell you, November is generally the month that altcoins really start to have a serious breakout, more like this right here. All the time before that, it's just kind of going sideways, up and down, and then maybe a tight range, something like that. So the bottom in 2015, October, it created a top, chopped around here, it was kind of faking out and hitting its head above this resistance right here, which you could drag this down to here, you could put it here. I mean, you could say this was like a mini breakout right there, and then it needed some sideways. And this probably looks very familiar, right? This is what Bitcoin did shortly after that 2020 dip. It came back up. And of course, this would have happened after this because this was 2016. That happened in 2021. But, this little structure here looks very similar before a breakout. So if you see something like that on an altcoin, maybe start to pay attention to it. But let's just say, something like that or something like that, where it has a true breakout and a retest. This is what I'm kind of expecting. See, it's hitting its head. This is our current price action on the 2-day. And it's got a really strong impulse here, which could be this impulse. But now it could pull back some and maybe just barely come into this or, kind of sit right in here. It doesn't have to come all the way down to this line. But so these are two scenarios I'm looking at. Is it number one or is it number two? Which one's going to happen? Is it the, which one was I going to show you here? Is there one in the future? Yeah. So I was also going to show you this fractal, which was, we'll just call it February 2017, where you had a nice breakout to the upside, and it actually tested, or actually got over this peak right here, which would be this one. So that's why I'm saying, it could be scenario one right now, just because this thing's showing a lot of strength. It's still kind of holding the gains that it made. So if you see something like this on your altcoin where it surpasses this previous one, it could still come down one more time. I just want you to know that. Now your spot bags, you don't want to mess with. Who cares if you miss taking profits on something like this? It's just going to come down one more time, then it's going to take off. It doesn't even matter if you miss on, if it comes right back down to where you bought. Who cares? What we're doing on our spot bags, we're holding till the end. 1 or 2 years. What is 20? So 2026, 7, 8. I mean, the top could be 2028 or 2029. We don't really know. From my calculations, and a lot of people want to demonize the 4-year cycle, but the 4-year cycle is not what I created back in 2022. It just happened to line up with it. What I created was the Bitcoin presidential chart where it tracked what happened, when the president was elected, when midterms happened. And that's what we're looking at right here is we've got presidential election right here. And by this time, by what is that, November 2028, that's really, the market should already be moving up pretty well at that point. Like you can see right here, it had a nice move, had a really stronger move in 2016 after that and 2017. And then in 2020, it really took off after that. It's not always going to work out exactly this way. Like right here, it was already nearing the top at this point. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, it's possible it could put in the first high when this happens, because it seems like it's happening later and later, or sooner and sooner, I guess is what I meant. Like back here, that was only about halfway through the bull market. Here it was closer to like 3/4. Here it's even closer. So who knows? If we were to shift this over here, we might say, okay, well, it might look like that, and it might have one more dip and one more pump. But what I have shown here is the September 10th, 2029. And, I've got 229K. Actually, I'm going to change that to 222 because I like that. I like that number. I'm just messing around. I don't know what the top's going to be, but I do know that the timing has worked out so far. And here's 350 days each time. Actually, it was 357. But each time into midterms, this thing created a bottom. And so in my mind, I was like, well, Tatiana's probably right. The bottom's probably in. But since I have a few days left, which I don't know what that is, it's not many. What, about a month? Yeah, it's about a month. So going into midterms is our bottom. So whether the bottom's actually in, whether we get another dip back to the low, or even if it does surprise everybody and it does come down one more time, you can't discount that. And they like to fake people out, right? So we're just a month away, I guess, is the main thing. Who cares if it comes down one more time? If it does, you're just going to accumulate. You're going to DCA. If there's any tokens you want more of, or any tokens that you wanted and don't have any of, then go ahead and start making those plans. Find out what those are and have a plan, because we're going to get some kind of dip at some point. I mean, even if this thing comes up to say 96K on Bitcoin, it's going to pull back. It has to. It never goes up in a straight line. So don't chase, I guess, is the most important thing. I wouldn't be chasing right now unless your altcoin is already sitting low. Tau might be a good example. I'm failing to, well, CCD maybe. I'd have to look at CCD, what it's doing. I think it's barely breaking out, possibly. So yeah, I mean, there's some options like that you could look at, but every token is on its own time. It's got its own timeline. So generally speaking, they all tend to move together, but you're going to have stronger ones. You're going to have weaker ones that move later. You'll have stronger ones that end their cycle before Bitcoin tops out. It happens every time. So we're going to do our best to, try to figure all that out as the market goes along. But great news is we're very close. I mean, what bottom's probably in, but regardless if it's not, very close, and that's what matters. All the signs are pointing to that. Yeah, so I think I've made my point pretty well here, and you can see it over and over. This is April 2017. Is that right? Yeah. And so you carved out a bottom, top, lower highs, breakout. That's exactly what you're looking at. That's the same exact pattern. And you can see what happens after too, parabolic moves. Of course, you're going to get some chop, expect some chop on the way up. I think that covers all of that. Yeah, I think that's fine. And let me just show you before we move into looking at individual tokens, which I guess I am partially already. But here we got centrifuge or centrifuge. And if we were to compare here with total 3ES, which all that is the crypto total market cap excluding BTC, ETH, and stablecoins, there's actually one that compares it back to Bitcoin after doing this calculation. And we'll look at that in a second. We might be able to gather some more information from that. But at this point, I don't know that it really matters. You're grasping at straws or whatever the old saying is for that. But what I wanted to show is this right here. So there's always a resistance line, there's always a support line, but there's also a midline that you can use to get in early. And so here with centrifuge, it doesn't have much history. It's very difficult to determine what might happen with it because we can't see all the price action over here. So I've got it here on the weekly. I've got my resistance line, which is not perfect, but I consider these deviations above the mean, something like that. And you could pull this one up to here to the candle bodies if you wanted, and it would still be correct. But that's a clear deviation right there to me. And this is a clear deviation to the bottom as well. So as above, so below. Usually if you have something like this, it's going to fake out to the upside as well. And now it's kind of finding some equilibrium right in the middle, right? Same thing happened over here, above, below, rejection. I actually came back down and touched again. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. How did I count that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, this one had a fifth reject or a fifth wave, and it rejected again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I guess we could. Well, no, that'd still be 6. So, will this one come back down here and test one more time? Possibly. I mean, you're risking 20%. And that's kind of what I said the other day is that, alts could come down 30%. Some of them could. But I think that was before the pump. So I was actually wrong on that. The pump happened first. So might see a 30% pullback now on some of them now that they pump. But we know how that works. Breakout, it always pulls back, does some kind of retest. But there's there's definitely a support line right here. So I could see centrifuge, especially with that wick right there. I can see it possibly holding here. All you'd have to do is say, okay, well, once this thing got above the midline, and maybe I waited for a couple confirmation candles, then I'm going to enter because this next time it goes up here, it's going to break out. There's just no doubt, especially on a high time frame like this. And generally, what happens is when you're coming back up, it usually rejects right here at these at the highest candle body right there. It didn't really happen down here though. I don't think you're going to see this. I don't think it's going to come into this line. So just wait for this cross above the midline. You'll get a good entry. You won't miss much, even if it comes down here. Of course, if it comes down here, buy it immediately. I mean, that's a great buy. I just don't know if it's going to do that. What did we say? Tau, Tau was another good example here. Same thing. You just kind of find your midline here. It's not too tough. You'll start to recognize it somewhere in here, and then support. The support line's a little bit more difficult, but I think it's I don't know. It's something like that. Deviation, little deviation right there as well. This one's faked out a lot. So what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This could be the breakout on this one. Look how it's tightening up. This is really, I didn't even come over here and talk about this one, did I? So over here on the right side, that's exactly what we want to see. Price tightening up, breakout, retest, if we can get it. If we can get that retest, that's great. So may see something like this on Tau. Maybe it comes up a little bit more. And then you get your real breakout after that. But this one's been beaten down a lot too. So really strong altcoin here. I think everybody should consider Tau. I think it's going to do pretty well. So let's jump over here to AI and see what it printed out for us. And I'll go over it here real quick. if I can make it bigger or big enough. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that well. Well, hopefully you can. How do I make it to where I can see what you see? Oh, we've got a lot more people coming here. Okay. Hey guys, welcome. I don't know how to get it to show what you're able to see, but anyway, I assume
Hey
that you can
Bike,
see this fine.
hey Bike, what
Hey,
qualifies as a aggressive coin? Like what would the attributes be of these ones to make it in as aggressive?
yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It actually mislabeled this. A portion of these are aggressive, and I'll tell you which ones. I mean, they're going to be obvious, the ones that are and aren't. And I think that it misrepresented some of these return amounts as well. But I'll show you how I asked it to come up with these, and we'll see if some of them are accurate. So XRP, we know, I mean, a high market cap like this is just not going to have a huge move, but it's showing the target at $6. I think it could hit 12. So it's already wrong there. It's just not doing what I asked it to do. So yeah, we'll go over this here in a minute. I'll try to show some targets that I think are going to hit. Tatiana's she's doing a spreadsheet for you, which some of you have seen already, and she's going to update those numbers based on, a lot of these tokens came down a little bit further than we thought they would. So she's having to refigure all that. And I think she'll have it done by October or something, which is fine. I mean, we don't need those targets right now anyway. But yeah, XRP, high market cap, it's not going to be able to move as quickly, although sometimes it just blasts out of nowhere like it did. But I think $12. So if we're talking about just the aggressive tokens, those are going to be, I'd say anything under 500 million, maybe market cap. I think those have the best opportunity to, have a big move. Now, that's not to say they all can. It really depends on the team. If the team is going to be greedy and do a bunch of token unlocks and sell off and all these things that happen where a token just fails, then there's nothing we could do about that. But that's why it's important to diversify, right? You can't put all your eggs in the same basket, especially if it's extremely risky. So I would say something like Cookie, Dusk. I think Centrifuge, even though it's only 82 million, I think this one has a very real opportunity to be a big winner. It really depends on if RWA does well, like tokenized real world assets, as far as a narrative. If this is the cycle for that narrative, then yeah, definitely this one has a good chance. So does Ondo and things like that, Boson. But it seems like the narrative is mostly going to be like the main narrative is going to be compute, anything to do with chipset architecture or video cards or what's something else? Data centers, of course, things that are being built right now, the infrastructure that's being built. But those won't be the only things. I mean, payment system. Yeah, we're just thinking about the infrastructure. What all has to be built under the hood for these systems to become a reality in the future? And these things aren't, they don't happen overnight. It takes what 5 to 7 years. Now there is a guy that talks about every 30 years a new or not payment system. I mean, payment systems are part of it, but a new monetary system shows up, whether it's backed by gold, silver, whatever. And we're seeing that now. There's a new something that's coming, and crypto was kind of the start of that. The crypto had to be developed to where it was something that the everyday person could trust. The person that doesn't care about crypto, the person that just wants to live their life, do their 9 to 5, come home and watch TV. It's just the normie. A lot of people call them normies. That's the type of person I'm talking about. They need to have that trust in this new system, so it takes a while to build that trust. So I'll just tell you what some of these that I think could do really well, and we'll look at some charts too. I like GRT. I think XPL. I mean, I just feel something with XPL. I think it could do something. AERO is a really good one. Inge could do really well. APT, Tau, HBAR. And of course, for the high market caps, Link, XRP, XLM. Yeah, there's some, of course, on this list that are not here. I've actually, what's that other list that I made? Let's just take a look at this one real quick. Oh yeah, there it is. So this is the other one that I did, and I think it probably looks better, but AVAX, Kava, I don't know. I just don't feel anything, or IOTA, I don't feel anything for those. Doge, Sol, ETH, of course, those will, ETH for being a very high market cap, it's probably going to do really well just because it's been beaten down so long. SEI, yeah, I mean, any of these have a good chance to do well. These are just some that I came up with that we also track. Just so happens some of these, some of you are in as well. But just because yours isn't listed here doesn't mean it can't do well either. I just want to make that clear. Everybody has to have their own tokens that they decide to get into. Okay. Is there, before I get into these, before I kind of go over some of these, is there any that y'all would like to look at specifically? Let's see what everybody's saying here. Oh, well, Rod's should be joining us. Just curious if I should be holding out for 11 cent. I don't think I would worry too much about holding out for 11 cent. Let me see something. Let's just look at it compared to this structure here. Well,
Could we look at Hyperliquid next?
yeah, sure. I mean, I don't, yeah, I mean, it could happen. I mean, 11 cents is not that far from here, but let's just look and see what, something like that. And then we'll do our support, which it's always difficult to, well, I would say this right here. I'd do a horizontal support. Maybe pull it here. I'd even bring it down some right there on a higher time frame. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty legit. Close enough anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's tightening up, right? There's not a whole lot to see, or not a whole lot that can be said just yet. If it's going to fall one more time, I kind of doubt that it will, but let me just see if I can draw this thing. Yeah, that's close. Okay. I would say, well, I mean, it's important to have your weekly close. What are we on the 4-day? Let's just see what the weekly does where it closes. I mean, it could come down again, sure. But look at all this support right here. So it satisfied the October 10th wick, which is really important. I really like where it's at, actually. I mean, it could come down a little bit still, but I mean, I've been rethinking things today after I looked at some of this. Could it still happen? Sure, but I think it's less likely to happen based on what I saw today. Let me just look at one thing here. Where's my, 6.8, there it is. And the 8.8 fib would be the lowest I could see. Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I think, so here's my thing. I have a big problem with the way that this pump happened. And I'm not saying that the bottom's not in, because I'm actually saying that I think it is in, that I agree with Tatiana based on what I saw on the alt charts. But here's the problem I have with it. Let me find it here. So I was saying yesterday, was it? I think it was yesterday. Yeah. I was saying, where's the negative news narrative that aligns with fear and capitulation before an uptrend? So are we saying that the cold card wallet hack, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's not the big news item. And don't get me wrong, I don't follow the news. I'm just saying you usually have something like FTX or there's something that happens that just scares people. Everybody could, well, not everybody, but a lot of people capitulate at the bottom. and then it's time to take off. So this is a wallet, the cold car wallet hack. It's a wallet most people haven't heard of. At least I hadn't. So I was just saying I'd feel a lot better about this being the bottom if price can hold above 69, 70K. But at that time, I hadn't really looked at what I'm showing you today. So I've definitely flipped more bullish now, for the bottom being in. But you can definitely understand why it's important for Bitcoin to give us a pullback, a retest, and then, start moving back up again to give us that final confirmation. I mean, anybody would say, yeah, that makes sense. So I would imagine people that are still bearish are probably saying that as well. They're probably saying, well, I just don't have enough information yet. And sure, they might be a little bit late, but I think the majority of them will jump on board as soon as they see something like this. So, I would say give them a little slack as far as that goes. Don't laugh at them too much. But everybody has their own thing on the chart that they're looking for, and some people like Tatiana can see it much quicker, which I really respect. That's a great skill to have. But somebody like me, I need a little bit more confirmation. I need to look at other charts. Fractals are really good for me. It's just something I lean into. Sometimes they get me in trouble, but anyway, that's kind of where my stance right now. I think that we're there, but we're going to see some sideways chop like we always have when these bottoms are being carved out. Okay, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah, let me answer that question. So Mark says, can I pull this? Yeah. So Mark says, so you think many stronger alts won't have much of a pullback? Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that they wouldn't. I mean, if you see like what I'm showing here, where you've got this where it pulls away from the resistance line, and then like a rubber band, it just pops back up, which we could say, maybe the midline cuts right through this little thing. And if you look at this, you say, well, that does look pretty equal. This equals this. Everything's math, right? And it's just kind of cutting right through this part. So this equals this. And you just get that final retest. Of course, this was 2020, so I don't think we're going to have anything like that. But especially since Tatiana made the point that, and I do believe it, that this is wave 5, that we were correct, doing a corrective wave 4. And this isn't the start of a new bull market. It's just continuation of the previous one, or the previous, 3, 4 waves that had already happened. And it makes a lot of sense, I mean, if you really think about it. And I have seen other people say that, by the way. They didn't say it when she was saying it, but I think some of them have come around to start saying the same thing. So they're starting to agree with her. But yeah, I mean, you see these, where it just rejects, lower high, breakout, retest. It just repeats this, whether it's a big structure like this, like 2020, or a very small breakout and a very small pullback, and then a breakout again. And then, you just keep having that on the way up as well, where you have these reaccumulation areas. So really, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for a clear breakout, and we're looking at basically, this is the total 3 for all intents and purposes. Breakout, some kind of pullback. The very strong ones might do something like this, just to answer your question. Might break out and not pull back all the way, but instead do something like this and not give anybody an opportunity to get into them. So just be very careful of that. I mean, I know it's difficult to say, well, how am I supposed to get into it then if I don't get a clear pullback? Well, I would just say, if you really want the token, then either buy a little bit now, buy 30% of what your total allocation is going to be. And then if you get the pullback, buy more, or see what happens with Bitcoin. Like, for example, here. So, I mean, it's clear that we've got a resistance area here, but we've got to see if it's going to reject there. I don't know. I think it could reject here, could reject there, could come all the way up here to 94. Remember, these W patterns play out sometimes, but you just don't know if they're going to complete the W there, or if they're going to be, end up being short like that. but you are going to get some kind of a pullback. And when that pullback happens, you want to already be thinking about, okay, well, where would make the most sense for this thing to pull back to? And so you either draw that, you pull a fib. I think I have to reverse this to get it right. Oh, I pulled that on the wrong structure. Sorry. Let's say from this one. Okay, so this is what I would be looking at. A shallow pullback, you're just going to go to the 0.5, 74, 0.800 K, or that's a really weird way to say that, 74,800, or pull back to just under 71. Now, it could pull back to the 8.8. I'm not saying that it can't. I mean, if they really wanted to grab liquidity on both sides, shorts and longs, maybe they do pull it back to 62K. Now, would this make sense to you? Think about things that would make sense. So a sweep above, maybe somewhere in here for an inverted head and shoulders, and then take off. That makes sense to me. Doesn't have to happen that way. This is another possibility. Sweep, pull back to the 618, take off, or sideways, then take off. Maybe it develops an inverted head and shoulders up here. So we don't know, but as long as it holds around 71K ish, I think that's your confirmation right there. And that would be very strong confirmation. I mean, this is a huge candle. Somebody was buying a lot, right? Like, where do you see that candle anywhere here on the chart? Back here. I mean, even that one's not that big. Back here, look at that. So we've got a comparison here of two candles that are fairly close in size. And then here is your, it came right up here, which I would say would probably be right here, 90K-ish. And then it pulled back right here, shallow pullback to the 0.5, just like we were talking about. So I'm saying if that works out the same as it has in the past, which I may have different numbers here if I didn't pull it exactly right, but 74, 75K, shallow pullback, and then take off. So it gives you some numbers to watch for. Let's see. What are you going to finish your altcoin accumulation? I would prefer to see some kind of pullback loop. I mean, I'm just the type of person that wants a discount, just like y'all, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm not bullish. I want a better deal. It is going to matter what token you're looking at too, of course. Like you're looking at APT, say. I mean, look at this. It's actually time to buy it right now. Swept the October 10th wick. Swept this over here too. And if I bring in, well, look at that. The RSI is actually breaking out right there. But if I brought in the waves indicator, why is that thing showing up there? Thing should not show that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look at that right there. There is a bullish divergence there. That's on the weekly. You're already getting one on the weekly. Yeah, this is curling up pretty hard right there. So I like APT right here. You could accumulate that one right now. Actually, I did play this one on a leverage all the way up to maybe right in here somewhere, and I took profit. But I could have held it too. It could keep going immediately. But I mean, we could look at a lot of tokens like that. Like say, what's another one that's popular? SCI. SCI. I really don't know what a lot of these have done. But I mean, you can see here on the higher time frames too. Here's the other reason I'm thinking we could have some kind of small pullback at least. We're pushing right into the 51 level for the EMA. And waves has given a really strong buy signal there, but sometimes, it may play around in here and then the cloud gets tighter and then it turns green. So I mean, I think you're close enough regardless. You swept your October 10th wick. You got a little warning signal right here where it deviated just above the cloud. And now you're getting back into the cloud. I mean, that's pretty strong. And also at the same time, this little, like if we flip this thing over and I got rid of the indicator, what's something we've talked about recently is if you take this right here, this shoulder, I'm gonna have to remove some of these here so it's clearer. This is a deviation. Look how it rejected right there. So here's your shoulder, deviation above, distribution basically. Well, sorry, in this case it's capitulation. Sorry, I told you wrong. Rejection. This looks really strong. So now we're going to flip the chart back over. Capitulation came up, came down, found support, never got back below it. You're probably headed up. Something like this. It's going to create a shoulder there, or inverted head and shoulder. And there you go. Some resistance there, some resistance there. I mean, you're going to encounter some on the way back up, but your bottom's in on this one, I think. And you're going to see a lot of tokens that look like this. I mean, it's not the only one. But if y'all have specific tokens you want to look at, just let me know. We'll look at them. Dog. Yep, I knew that one was coming. Looks real similar, actually. I mean, you could even do it on a higher time frame and pull this. Pull from here to here. And there's your capitulation level. If you wanted to verify it, though, what is this right here? Oh, yeah, that's at October 10th wick. Okay. Or October 6th, I guess it shows on weekly. But if you wanted to verify that this was capitulation, then you just wait on this. You're probably going to get some kind of rejection there. Rejection holds, just like we talked about. Breakout, might reject there again. 5-wave, corrective, and then breakout again. So it's going to do small, shorter term time frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC, breakout, and then all of that ends up being the first wave. Once enough of those happen, the first wave out of this bottom, I mean, and then eventually you get a 5-wave that's on a macro scale and it goes huge. The problem with tokens like this is I can't get an accurate top for it, really. Not in my mind anyway. Tatiana might be able to do better, but we don't have enough information to really get a true top, I don't think. But if we took the fib and pulled it here, I mean, I do want to talk about targets just for fun today, because I know y'all would prefer to talk about those too. So I do want to mention this. But if we look at 1.936, and these are Tatiana's fib levels, because I want to use a standardized fib level that we can all, we know that's what we're looking at. It's obvious that that's the levels we're looking at. So 168, 1618 we'll throw in there too. And so I think this is conservative, but from the current level, 30x. And actually, this is a pretty good read, I think. I was thinking we wouldn't get a very good, well, let me see something. June 2025. Well, let's be more conservative. And we'll use the 1936 here. Yeah, I think 30 is pretty close, maybe. I mean, if you want to get real conservative, then it's a 15x, but I would be surprised if it only did that. So 15x, around 30x, maybe as much as 50x is the way I would look at it. And we'll see what Tatiana comes up with. I mean, I don't know what her targets are yet, but we'll see. I would trust her targets more because I think her method is probably better than mine. But and sometimes my use of a log throws things off compared to what she gets. What does this show? Oh, okay. So yeah. Well, maybe it didn't pull it right. I think it did though. Yeah. Well, minimum 10x anyway. And that would just be a sweep of the highs right here. We'll see. We just got to see what it does. So same thing, we were just talking about, same thing. Once we feel like the top is getting close, all we have to do is we're going to pull. I mean, you could just go ahead and pull this fib and leave it on your chart. Well, I would actually rather wait for a shoulder over here now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, you pull this fib, something like that. And then if it got over this area and then closed back below it and rejected, then you just get out. Of course, if it got back, if it got back above, you would just buy it again. But that's the safest play right there. Because that happens a lot where you get that deviation. The reason, the mentality, let's always think about what the mentality is of the retail trader. They wait until price breaks out. And so they're not watching way down here. They might, if they're lucky, they're watching here, but I doubt it. They're watching way up here. That's my take on it. And so they don't jump in until all this has happened. And now they get in. So what if it does something like this, head and shoulders? I mean, that's another thing to watch for. And so that's what I was talking about. Like if it did a shoulder here, that's what I would want to be watching for. Yeah. And sometimes you're not going to get a perfect rejection, but you get the idea anyway. Sometimes the shoulder is more angled, but we know what to look for. We know if it's starting to turn down anyway. We really got to pay attention to that. It's going to be important once, 2 years from now or whatever. Be watching that very closely. Okay. Let's see here. APT. Oh, yeah. Dean said APT. I think you meant ABT. Yeah, my bad. I mix those letters up all the time. We will look at ABT here. Because remember that line that I showed you on ABT that we've been talking about forever? Why is it not coming up? I'll just put ARCBLOCK. Remember that rejection line that we were talking about? It's been like that for a long time for you. And I was saying until this thing breaks out of here, why even mess with it? But even though this looks like this is actually a retest right here. This was kind of a breakout of this part right here. But look how this pulled way down and rubber banded back up. And now it's just kind of retesting that. And it's probably going to come back up now. So you'll get some kind of W there, most likely. Maybe one more pullback, shallow. Who knows? Maybe something like that. And then once it gets back up here, it'll probably have a little bit longer of a corrective situation, which is no more than a bull flag. I haven't looked at this one, so just give me a second here. What was this? 2018, 2024. Where's the 2025 at? Maybe here. Okay, so this one probably in 2025, it topped out in May. So I'm going to pull a fib from there. And I'm not going to be real conservative on choosing the wicks versus the candle body. I'll just choose the wicks. So you're looking at, I mean, if it just is a one-to-one move, then you're looking at 16x, 25x, 50x. I mean, I don't know that this is going to happen. It might not. And again, I use logs, so I don't know that my numbers are going to match Tatiana's, but what is that number? Yeah, I mean, the aggressive target would be 13x in this case if I was using the normal. I just like using log. So I think the takeaway here is that most of these tokens are going to do 10x, the strong ones that we follow anyway, which is great. I mean, I know Luke, the way he's been accumulating, 10x is all he needs, and he's probably looking for less than that even. But ABT is very strong. You have to look at the macro. So this was the breakout. This is a very, when this tightens up like this, start watching for this for the tokens, because when this tightens up like this, just like we looked at with Tau and CFG, which are Tau is AI compute, I believe, and CFG is like fintech, basically. When you're seeing stuff like this where it's tightening up and then it breaks out, sometimes you don't get that pullback. But as soon as you get that breakout and the candle closes on a high time frame, you don't want to, just because it pops out of this upper trend line here, doesn't mean that it's actually taking off. I mean, look at these wicks that happen back here. Wait for a candle to close there, and then you know that it's good. So this is a monthly. What did it look like on the weekly? Yeah, a little bit of a pullback right there. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. When the token's very strong, it's just going to go sideways. And that took, 4 or 5 weeks. So yes, we were talking about the presidential chart here. Yes, the 4-year cycle could be over, but the presidential chart, it just so happens to have a lot of the same timing as the 4-year cycle. The point is that midterms is the usual very bottom or very close to it. Doesn't mean that we have to come down again, but it does mean that the timing is pretty accurate. So say if we just go sideways from here for most alts, or if some go up, some go down a little bit, midterms is where you're looking at, the true confirmation that all of that junk is out of the way. Now we can start moving up for real. So that's why I still use this chart. A lot of people jumped on the bandwagon saying, oh, well, 4-year cycle, 4-year cycle. But it was never 4-year cycle for me. It was always presidential chart. So, even the fear greed index down here is showing that, higher lows. Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good on the high time frame here. So I think we're all good. ARCBLOCK, okay. Mark says probably hype and TIBBIR, please. Curious if they will come back much. You effing doubt it? F doubt it. I know you weren't saying that. I was just messing with you. Okay, hype. Hype's interesting because, it pumped way ahead of everything else, which it didn't go too much. What, 270%? So I guess the thing that I'm thinking about there is if you look at this new setup that I have for the market breadth, where it watches how many altcoins are bullish versus how many are bearish. And it does have a temperature scale down here. So if it's very cold, if it's very cool like this, it's blue. And if it's starting to heat up, it kind of changes to, yellow. And if it's way overheated, it's red. And it didn't really, I wish it would give us really clear signals like this, but the market was extremely overheated in 2021. And we may see this again just because we've been so oversold. Hardly anything's been going on with alts, although some did see pretty good gains last, third wave. Maybe this wave is the one that sees the whole market explode for the most part. But you can see just how oversold we are. The 30-day. So this is the 30-day above 360-day, whatever you want to call it. I'll show you what that definition means here in a second. But there's less than 10% tokens that are short-term bullish right now. Actually, they're all pretty equal. The 90-day and 180-day are the same. So if we go over here to top outperformers, this is the new thing that I added. You can see all of the confirmed leaders right now as far as what it considers, the top leaders. and hype is one of those. I think it gives some kind of, oh, market cap rank compares tokens total circulating value with other currencies. Okay. So we'll just go through a couple of these here. So that, well, actually it didn't give, I thought it was going to give a, maybe this is it. How are they ranked? Each token is compared with its own 360-day simple moving average. This measures the token's internal trend strength, not whether it is outperforming Bitcoin. Oh, here it is right here. So 30-day trend, token's average price over the last 30 days based on completed daily closes. Its row percentage shows how far this average is above or below the 360-day baseline. So it's just kind of checking on its structure and seeing if it's stronger versus other tokens that are, being tracked on this. Not every token's being tracked on this, by the way. So maybe this isn't too accurate, but it does give you an idea of what tokens are the very strong ones currently. Now, the interesting thing here is hype shows up on the confirmed leaders, but it's also showing up over here on the weakening leaders. So it's confirmed that it's cooling, and that would make sense because it was one of the first ones to have a decent move. VVV, same way, near same way. So I would wait for a pullback on these. Hype is extremely, it's fintech. It's extremely valued by a lot of people. I would just say if you really want this one, I'd probably wait for a pullback, even if it came a little bit higher. It's just a little bit risky right now. I mean, it could go 5x first and then pull back, but this is also, I would be more guarded anytime you see this when a token pops above a recent high like this, because that's what retail does, right? They buy that breakout. I mean, we could look at the volume and see if the volume made sense in this case. I didn't mean to do that. I mean, the volume's still good, but notice how it could be waning. I mean, we don't know. Maybe the volume's starting to wane, but this thing could still pump for a while. One thing you could do, and I've talked about this at length before, you could buy, but if it fell below this line right here, your trend line, then it wouldn't make sense to stay in it unless it got back above the line again. Treat that just like, capitulation or, a deviation or distribution. So is this distribution maybe, if you were to get, I'm just showing you some things that I think about when I see stuff like this. So is it distribution? The only way you would know is that it came under here and rejected. And we'll be watching for that for Bitcoin too, as if we feel like the top is in here in a couple of years. Oh yeah, TIBBIR. I didn't look at TIBBIR for you. Did I even look at, yeah, we looked at hype. Okay. I get on a tangent sometimes. Yeah, TIBBIR looks good. It's doing what you want it to do. Breakout, tightened up really tight there. I mean, that's exactly what you want to look for. What was that one? Yeah, it was ABT. Okay. So if you see a little bull flag here, that's your accumulation. You see something like that. I don't think there's any danger here of it pulling back too much. I mean, you would hope not anyway. What did I want to pull here? Yeah. So pull back to, 18 cents or something might be a place to start looking for a place to enter if you're not in yet, or if you want to accumulate more. But I mean, that makes more sense to me just because if it was going to come down to here, which happens sometimes, it would have already happened, I would thought, or I would think. So this is a weekly. Well, I mean, you could just do the trend line thing if you want to. Go down to a daily or something. Draw your trend line. And you're good as long as it's holding that. That's the way I would look at it anyway. Okay. Oh, well, somebody trust me. That's nice. Oh, Mark, yeah, it's typo. Cautious of near and high. Yeah, you want to look at SUI and AERO. I mean, I'm not saying to be cautious if you're holding it. I'm just saying be cautious if you're looking to accumulate it. I mean, you want to accumulate at the right point, right? I mean, we want to be buying here, or, worst case scenario, we want to buy here after the breakout, but only after we see some consolidation. I mean, you could miss the whole move, but there's other tokens. I mean, I just don't want to jump into something that could pull back, to like this. That's where I want to buy. But if you see for a couple of weeks, or I don't know, this is a weekly chart, but if you see for a couple of days that this thing's just kind of creating some kind of, let's look at the daily. It's probably a triangle, isn't it? Yeah, sort of like one. So some kind of triangle, either a pennant or a bull flag, which a bull flag would be this. It's going to be hard to write over that, but something like that where it's making marginally lower lows, nothing substantial. And it's just kind of like a channel going down like this after a breakout. You want to buy these little dips right here if you can, because that's where the market maker's buying. Don't buy the fake out. And one way you can tell is if you do the waves indicator, buy these little green dots right here instead. If price is green or money flow is green, buy that little tight green dot right against the midline right there. That's a good way to accumulate. You probably have to go down to like a 4-hour chart, really, which it's going to give you a lot of signals, I know, but let's just see what this looked like. Yeah, so it went red for a little bit, but you can see higher, low, higher, low, higher, low on the green dots. And then there are a bunch of green dots here that were really tight to the midline. It did go red again temporarily, but then it started getting green right there again. It's tough to do in real time, but it does work. Just look for strength. Well, I mean, this is the easy. Look how easy this is. I didn't even think to have the EMA up. So there you go. Just buy anytime it hits the green area. I mean, you could be adding to your position here. If for some reason you get candles starting to close below, just get out. As long as it's not your spot bag. I'm talking about like a trade bag or something. And then if the candles start closing back in the cloud, then you can get back in at that point. But you're just trying to save yourself. Like if you're entering late and you see something like that, you're like, well, I'm not real sure that it's going to hold. I'm just going to get out of it for now. And then I'm going to check again tomorrow. And if I start seeing candles close back in it, then I'm going to get back in. You're just kind of, saving yourself some losses there just in case it turns down on you. But I mean, these were higher lows. Think about market structure when you're looking at tokens. Getting higher lows, that's all that matters. Okay, so SUI. I guess I could put this on a bigger screen. And I like to look at higher time frames. At minimum, I like to look at 2-day. It's one of my favorite time frames. But I like to also go weekly first, just because I get a lot more condensed information. This is a longer term trend line right there. Shorter term here. This reminds me of the ETH Bitcoin pair. You had a bottom, of course, this was a long time ago, 2023, bottom, retest, breakout, and now it's coming back to test this area again. Yeah, I mean, where did it get to? I mean, it could come down to like 57 cents at worst case scenario, but this could be the bottom on it as well. Just trying to see if I can get the right angle here. I mean, that might be it right there. So what we want to watch for is a candle that closes above this line. So if we go down to like 2-day or something, I mean, it's looking good to me. Let's see if we've got on RSI, if we've got a bullish divergence. I bet we do. Yeah, I mean, you got higher lows forming, lower lows on price action. That's a bullish divergence. So when are we over the 50? Yeah, we're already over the 50 RSI on the 3-day, 2-day, daily. Yeah, so it's bullish. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't worry so much about these trend lines. I mean, you're trying to accumulate as close to the bottom as you can. So SUI looks good to me. I don't think there's any problem accumulating right now if you wanted to. I mean, some people look at this and say, well, it's already up 20%. I mean, well, what's 20% though? That's nothing by the time the bull run's over. Where's our October? So pulling on the log anyway, pulling from here, like 7x, 10x, something in there makes sense. That's to me, that's more conservative because it's just barely getting above the 2025, the January 2025 top for this one. And I think this is real important to take note of. We were kind of mentioning at the beginning, but tokens, altcoins tend to either top after Bitcoin or before. And to me, it seems like more and more of them are topping before Bitcoin. So here you got a top for SUI in January 2025, and Bitcoin didn't top till whatever it was, October 2025. It was a little bit lower, but you were seeing lower highs here, and especially, and this is pretty telling right here. This is exactly what we were talking about, except it's on more of an angle where you get it moves above this previous high, and then it falls down and rejects right there. This was probably your strongest signal to get out of this one, I think. Although you could have taken this one too, or this one, but that's very difficult. I mean, this would have been very difficult to find. I think this one is reasonable to have gotten out right there because lower high, and this was a head and shoulders. So, y'all challenge me on this in the future, and you say, hey, is this a head and shoulders happening right now with like distribution above? Let's take these off again. I just want to show this one more time. So shoulder, we want to watch for these shoulders. Maybe you already saw this top here and you're like, well, warning signal, starting to come back up. It developed a shoulder. It got back above this high. And now we know this was distribution because it came back down, didn't reject the line perfectly, but it didn't regain it either. So, things to watch out for anyway. What was the other one? AERO. Yeah, AERO is a really good one. I mean, all these that y'all are talking about are going to be really good tokens, I suspect, by the end of the market. This one looks pretty good. I mean, from a long term, it really looks a lot like Tau, doesn't it? Where you got a long term trend that's down mostly. Something like this. To me, that's a deviation right there. So it's just deviating above the mean or above the upper trend line. Yeah, close enough. What was that October 10th wick? System. Oh, it's way up here. That's interesting. This one didn't actually have that big wick like the rest of them. Well, it doesn't matter. I think it satisfied this right here. It barely swept below that. I'm just trying to get my bearings here because I haven't looked at this one. Looks like a uptrend, like a uptrend channel. I don't know, something like that. I mean, you could draw it like this on your own chart if you wanted to, and if it closed a candle below here, then yeah, maybe it comes down and does another bottom or something, but looks fine to me. And then if you pull from, well, we could pull from this top here, maybe. I don't know. I'm just being careful about where I pull from. I'd really rather pull from like October, but we'll take that. And then here's some targets on this one. I'd say 5x makes a lot of sense, but it could do 10x. And I may be completely wrong. It could go much higher than that. What did AI have to say about that? Where's my phone? Yeah, it said 10x. Of course, I don't know. I mean, you need to check AI because sometimes it's going to be wrong. Like XBL, or do we really think it's going to do 100x? I doubt it. But some of these will. There will be a couple, like a handful of winners. There always is that just have a huge move. Remember Gala in 2021? I've talked about that before. It had an initial 100x move. It consolidated sideways, and then it had another 100x move. So there's some, they're going to have some really big moves. And I don't think it has anything to do with the project itself, to be honest. Gala did seem like a huge project back then, but look what happened to them since then. I mean, the token's just gone way down. Um, like it doesn't, none of this stuff is real in my mind. It's all fake. We do live in the simulation. Um, and that's it. I mean, that's the way I see things. Maybe it's a cynical view, but I know some of you hold that view as well. And I would not get married to any project. We know that now. We've all experienced it. Let's just make our money. Let's watch the chart and let's do what the chart tells us. I think that's the better way to do it. Okay. I don't know if there's anything else I want to show here. I mean, if y'all have more questions, that's fine. Like I said, GRT looks really good. That's another one we're already tracking, on a spreadsheet, I know. But we'll just take a look at it here. The thing I like about it is it's way down. Now, the question is it going to recover much more because it's way down? We don't know that, but sometimes it can. Trying to find October again. Here we go. $10x, $15x, $25x. I think anything in there is reasonable. That would mean that it would get back up to the 2024, yeah, top. I mean, there is a long-term trend line right there as well. So, consider these on higher time frames as price starts working its way back up. Probably going to see some kind of extended something and then gets back above it and moves back up. Yeah, it's going to hit its head against resistance is what I'm saying there. How long have we been doing this? I don't even know. Oh yeah, I can look over here. Yeah, so we've been doing this about an hour and a half. Tatiana, did you have anything you wanted to say? Oh yeah. SUI and SEI, I think they're going to be great. It's just going to come down to, is anybody going to rug pull? Is any project going to rug pull? Look at Opal. I thought Opal was going to do great. I mean, if you look at the chart for Opal, it looked good at one point, and I guess they all do, and that's how they get you. But this one looked the exact same as the rest of them for a while there. I mean, look at that. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. It just swept the lows right there, and you kind of figured, well, accumulate this, and if it gets back up, then you're good. But there's some lessons here for us as well. This is August, November, October. Yeah, right here. So I think the lesson in this one is don't be dumb. And what I mean by that is this, maybe we look at this in the future. If Bitcoin tops in October and your token is sitting it's already topped way back here in 2024. It's sitting at support and then loses that support. Maybe that's a big warning sign. Maybe it just shows too much weakness and we shouldn't be playing those tokens. So if you see tokens like that, bring them up in chat and let's look at them and let's just see, maybe there's something to that. At the very least, we could draw a support line or something like that and say, okay, well, if this thing gets under that support line while everything else is bullish, then we probably don't want to mess with it. So, there's certain things like that we can look at. I don't know if Tatiana's available or not. Maybe she's not. I know she said she'd be cooking. I'm just seeing if she's actually there. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to show y'all. Thought there was one more. Oh, yeah, somebody did ask for CCD. Let's look at that. So this is her baby. And I'm probably not going to take care of her baby very well, but we'll look at it. And I'm going to leave the ribbon on here because I think it might help us. Let's see what this thing's doing. Oh, yeah, it's falling. I've got a couple tokens that I'm playing here. I was just checking in on it. Okay. I mean, I do like this. We always need to think about things. We want to buy things when they are, at support, basically. Like if you were watching the gold chart, or if you were watching real estate or, whatever, you do want to buy at the bottom, sell at the top. That's all we're trying to do. And that's obvious. So in this case, CCD is in that bottom range. If we were to draw like a range here, whatever it would look like, this is our accumulation range, basically. So what did we have? So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Anyway, that looks like a 5 wave right there. And then maybe some kind of A, B, C, D, E move. So you're probably back down here where you can accumulate again. You'd love if this was a macro 1 move, like a first wave, because then that would mean that it's going much higher. And that's probably what she's looking at. Let me just check on things. Well, that's a 1-to-1 move. I was going to check the fibs, but it moved up here and it came right back to the same area. So that's 1-to-1. I don't even have to look at the fib. But as far as targets go, I don't really know where I would pull from on this. Well, actually, I do. Where is October? November? Oh, this is probably close enough. So let's say that this is the bottom. And let's say we could even get more conservative here and say we'll just pull from there. So CCD back to the top is 8x. If it was doing like a macro 3 wave or something, I mean, I could see it going pretty hard. Probably 18x to 30x or something, possibly. And I do see, now that I'm looking at it here, trend line kind of like that. So this thing has pulled down into here. It's pulled way away from this trend line. So it needs to snap back like a rubber band. So at minimum, pretty soon you're going to see a move back up to this level right here. That's my best guess. And then it's going to give you, I mean, I really like the setup, by the way, but it's going to give you an inverted head and shoulders, and then it's going to break out of there. So hopefully that makes sense there, because it's the same thing we've been talking about, where we take this shoulder, we click the fib from the bottom here to the top, and then we get rid of our future fibs here. We don't want 168, 1936, or 1369. And we see this as capitulation, right? But we don't have confirmation yet either. So we need to wait. I mean, you could wait for that if you wanted to. You'd just be waiting on something like this. It doesn't have to get back down to this line, but as long as it pulled back just a little bit and started creating higher lows again, then that would be all the confirmation you'd need. And this would actually make a lot of sense, because look at this Look at this EMA ribbon right here. It hasn't touched the 21 just yet. So where this is touching right here would hit it for the first time. So if you want to be real safe with this one, there is some kind of trend line here as well. If you want to be real safe with this one, just wait and see what happens as it comes up to this EMA cloud. And this is the 2151. You can put it on any chart you want. You can use that RD indicator that I told you about before, or just use a regular EMA indicator and put 2151 on it, and you'll get the same bottom and top there as I do. Oh yeah, FTX. Okay. Oh yeah, I'll check. Okay, hang on. There's a couple more here. All right, Mike wants to look at VANRY. Oh, VANRY. Okay. That don't look good, does it? Oh, that's yeah. See, this is. Man, that looks a lot like Opal, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not saying that it's done. It could come back from it, but I mean, it sure does look weak, doesn't it? Um, October. So there's your October wick. Swept it. You would have preferred that it just, started moving back up from there. Oh, let's look at RSI. That'll help us out a little bit. Yeah, so RSI is weak currently. Money flows deep red in the green, or in the red, deep red in the red. 2 days deep. And there's no sign of this thing turning back around yet. You may have a little bit of a sign here, but you really need to see a move up and then a hold of the 30 RSI, and then another move, another higher low there. That's it's a long downtrend there when a lot of things have already bounced. So I don't like that, since a lot of tokens already bounced already. You've seen like just about every token, it seems like, had some kind of bounce. And I guess this one did too, but it gave it all back. See that wick right there? So it had another inverted hammer candle while everything else was kind of breaking out for the first time in a long time. I'd give it some time. If you're not in this one already, I would wait. I'd probably wait until it got back up to the wick here, which I know, wow, that's like 7x all the way back to that. I don't know. It doesn't look good to me. I mean, there's so many better tokens that you could be in. Like look at this right here. Like it's not even holding its structure at all. So yeah, it doesn't look good to me. And I don't mean to talk bad about it. I don't, if it's a token that you hold, it's just, I want to save you money. There's better tokens for you. Okay, Moonwell. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind looking at these being. No problem at all. I got time. Okay, so Moonwell is, where's the October? All right. Okay, so it didn't have a big wick either. Kind of the same as some of the other ones. RSI held 30, so that's good. It just barely swept below this. It's kind of struggling to get back above, but it's good to see the RSI doing that anyway. We should have been watching this, but I wasn't watching it. Clear breakdown of that. Well, at least this. Now on the high time frame, it looks really bad, but at least you're getting some kind of bounce here finally. Yeah, I mean, there may be something there, because look at this. There's your trend line. It's way pulled away from it, but you got to see something soon. And I would really expect a powerful move if it's going to show strength. And it is above the 50 now. I mean, look at this on the RSI. You got a breakout on RSI there. So, I mean, if you don't see something here in the next couple of weeks, then it may just be a really weak token. But I do hold some of this, by the way. So, I'm hoping that it actually does something. That would be nice. Okay, let's see. Cover FTX, FTT. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is just like a Hail Mary type play that she gave us this October. Yeah. So it hasn't swept October's wick yet. Doesn't mean it has to. It could hold here. But if this one was to surprise everybody and, after the collapse and everything, I think she had a dream about this, is what it was. But if this thing was to come back, yeah, I mean, there's probably, see, that was 2022, probably some money to be made here. Ten X, roughly 20, 30X would be the highest I would see on that one, which would be kind of this peak right there. I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, well, if it got all the way up to here, and I think this is what she's seeing, if it was to break out of this level, there's a huge gap right there from here to here. So you would suspect that at minimum, it would come up to here if it did do that. So that's 20. So if you just wanted to throw 500 at this or something, I mean, there's a 100x possibility here, maybe even more. I know her target was around $50, I believe. So that would be like a 220x. But that's pretty strong resistance there or here. So that's $30. I think I set a target of 24. I don't know why. I thought I had set her target. Maybe 24 was her target. I don't remember. I'll let her answer that. But yeah, that's just like it's a lottery ticket. You're trying to see if you can get lucky. She's said before, don't throw a bunch of money at that, because she's hoping that it happens, but we'll see. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so we covered that. VANRY dump, a delisting, or is it from a problem within the project? Yeah, I really don't know on that, Mark, but it's kind of like, show me the price action, I'll show you the news situation. We don't have to look at the news. There's probably something out there that you could look on X or something, and I'm sure there would be something that had happened. I mean, this was huge news on FTX, right? That was like the biggest news of the year or within a couple of years, and it marked the bottom. But unfortunately, we can't say the same thing about individual altcoins. I mean, we don't know that FTX is actually going to recover. We hope that it does. We hope that her dream is real, or not real, but we hope it turns out to be true. I mean, this thing's pulled way away from this resistance, so you should get some kind of snapback if it's going to do it. And that would be your first resistance point. And then if it got up above here, it would go much higher. But as far as VANRY goes, I'm just not seeing much strength in the chart, but it could. It could do the same thing that FTX is doing. I would put it in the same category as FTX, really. I don't know if there's any news out there or not, but I wouldn't pay attention to the news. I would just look at the chart, and the chart's going to give you all the information you need. Oh, they migrated to base chain at some exchanges deal. Okay. Well, I mean, it was a smart move, going to base chain for them. So maybe it will recover now that all that's happened. I noticed that there's been, like, during migrations and during, like, if they're doing restructuring, things like that. Honestly, that's probably a good sign that they're doing things like that. But I've also seen projects that do that and then they never recover for some reason. So I don't know, maybe they lose their momentum, or maybe they start selling off a bunch of their own tokens. And that's probably what happened to VANRY, if we're being honest, is I would imagine it's people on the inside selling their tokens, or there's token unlocks or things like that that are happening where it's just diluting the amount of tokens that are out there floating around. Yeah. Okay, did I cover everybody's tokens? I just want to make sure I got everybody handled there. Don't want to miss anybody. I don't really have LCX. I don't really have anything else I was going to show you. Oh yeah, had a big move off the bottom there. Well, the hopeful bottom. So daily should be over 50. Yeah, it's way over 50 RSI. 2 day. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Like, well, I was going to say, look at this token. It's not very strong either, but at least there's some price action back here we can look at and say, well, at least it's, not way down here and it's lost its where it was created. And I'm not saying that's the case for VANRY, but I just couldn't find enough information on it to make a real judgment call. I'm just kind of looking at this one, trying to figure out where the support is for the current level. I mean, there is one there. That does make sense because this was a breakout and a retest that happened back in 2021. A lot of support here, should be anyway. Anytime, just by the way, that you see this, like it's just really tight price action and it's just going down in an angle like that, either up or down, start watching for a bottom or a top because it's going to happen. Yeah, it's just, this is a lot of manipulation is what I've found. I mean, this is kind of the same thing in a way. Yeah, I mean, these patterns, they repeat over and over. But as far as LCX goes, yeah, I mean, it could have some room back up. There's some resistance back up here at 092. So I think at minimum, it probably gets back up to there. And maybe this happens right away, 200%. But what probably makes more sense, I've seen tokens with this structure before. What probably makes more sense to me is, just kind of a slow move back up here. I don't know if it'll come back down here, but it might, play the range, I would say, on something like this. That's smart to do if you start to notice a range that's playing out. You sell up here, you buy here, or you short up here or whatever. Because it's definitely going to have trouble right there. Maybe even here, a little bit further down. Let's see, Mark, do you think SEC pulls down? I think it will. Yeah, I've been looking at that one as a short. And something like that has gotten me in trouble before where I'll say, oh, well, this thing's up 50x or something. Surely it's going to come back down. And it doesn't come down. It just keeps going up. And I lose money because I think I'm getting into the short early. I'm wanting to get the exact top, which is, don't ever try to do that. That's a bad idea. You'll lose a lot of money trying to guess at the top or the bottom. I mean, watch that trend line. This is a situation where you would draw this, just like we were talking about before. Start looking to see if this is going to pull back into the range here. So here's your current range. Like if this thing was just to go sideways forever, this is your range. Anything above you consider, especially if it's gone up a bit, anything above you consider, okay, well, I'm going to start watching it. I'm going to put an alert right here. If it comes below this, and then I get a couple candle confirmation where it rejected, I'm going to take that short. What is this thing? Yeah, 50x. I mean, look at Ake. I've been waiting on this thing to turn around forever. And maybe it is finally, I don't know. But it's way up here. It's held 80 to 90 RSI for a long time. But it's just kind of going up here, consolidating sideways, showing a lot of strength. It's not falling down. Same thing here currently. But RSI is having more and more trouble getting above 50 level. So maybe it's finally starting to show some weakness. lower highs in the RSI. That's what you want to see if you're trying to get into a short. But look how high this thing's gone. That's almost 100x, while everything else was mostly bearish. So this thing, when everything else gets bullish, this thing's definitely coming down. And that's just the way it works. It can't stay up there forever. So here's our range. If you want to play it safe, instead of trying to guess like I do, here's our range for the shoulder. Is it going to do something like that? Projection. That's your short right there. And that level is 0068 roughly. Call it 007 if you want, but you need a couple confirmation candles, whether you want to look at 4 hour or daily or whatever. Make sure, save your money. It's just as important to save the money that you make or your initial capital if you're doing leverage trading as it is to, what did I say? It's just as important to save the money you do make off of trading, like leverage trading, as it is the money that, wow, I'm losing my train of thought. Anyway, the point is you're trying to save the money that you make. What is that thing that George Bush said? He said, I don't know. I can't remember what he said now. I know one thing he said was people and fish can't coexist, but I'm kind of losing my track. I think we've been doing this too long. I'm just losing my mind here. But I'm basically saying just try to retain the money that you make. Don't try to just throw it at, trying to guess at a short or something. Um, make sure that you retain that money because it's I think Engineer Robo says you use it like your army. It's like your army. Your money is your army that you can send out to battle for you. And if you run out of troops, what do? So you don't want to get liquidated. You don't want to give back a bunch of money that you made. Say you caught some kind of long or something. Now you're like, okay, well, this thing has gone up too far. I'm just going to start shorting it. And then you're shorting, and you're losing money all the way up. And now you've given back that whole amount. And it's really tough. Tatiana came back at a really good time. I was having a stroke.
You're
Let's
glitching
see.
there.
I couldn't think of what I wanted to say. Yeah, Zach. That's what I'm worried about. Zach. Yeah. Yeah. So Zach, I think is a short opportunity. Oh, there it is. Yes, thank you. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Yeah. Point is, I'm not going to get fooled again. That was so funny when he said that. We were talking about George Bush. Um, so yeah, I mean that I think I've covered it pretty well. I've given you some things to watch for. Watch for these distribution events. Watch for the capitulation events, which that's exactly what happened down here. Capitulation right there. It's hard to see in real time, but if you're watching like at a higher time frame, and on this one you would have to watch at a very high time frame, and you like if you flip this, that's a shoulder right there at the top. From here to here, it's not like a shoulder, and it barely got back above. That's a distribution range if you're looking at it that way. If you're flipping it on its head where it should be, like this is right side up now, then that's wow. I can't even think of what I want to say. Consolidation, capitulation. That's what I was trying to think of. Sorry. It's been a long day. Okay, so Tatiana, save me here. Is there anything you want to say?
I don't think so. I don't know how much you've covered because I was away cooking in the kitchen.
Do you want to talk
Um,
about CCD real quick? We did talk about it.
sure.
I'll bring it up here and you can just say what you want to say. Whether you feel like the bottom's in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like the bottom's in for CCD. There's the thing is, which I'm actually going to be putting out the report for the altcoins report later today or early tomorrow morning. But that's going to highlight pretty much everything when it comes to altcoins and how it's going to be important for everyone to read because we're going into a stage where not all the altcoins are going to behave similar. And you will see altcoins like Ethereum and XRP, for instance, gradually climbing. And then you probably see those climbing while you see like low caps still going sideways or possibly bleeding. And it's because we're going into that stage where the money's kind of shifting over. And that report's pretty much going to show you and indicate and demonstrate everything that I'm summarizing here, of course. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that, just in case, like, I don't know, like, where you guys stand, if you guys took advantage of the market when it was low, or if you guys are still thinking of getting into the market. Just know that, one second, my dogs are barking.
And that RSI is nice there too if it'll break out. I think it will. We're going to see this over and over, by the way, on all these altcoins where they're breaking out of this trend line here. But yeah, I know she's been working really hard on that thing she's talking about. Oh, I think she's back.
Okay, yeah, sorry, my dogs just were going crazy for a second. Um, yeah, as I was saying, like, yeah, this report's going to pretty much highlight all of that for you guys. It's also going to show you how big the altcoin market's going to be, which is why I've been tweeting about it because I was going over the calculations and I even made an article actually on Twitter. Um, because someone asked me how big I saw total two going. So then I apply that for, like, for instance, for Ethereum and XRP. And mind you, the calculations that you will see in this report, I was pretty taken back by it, and they're large caps. So if you're getting these type of numbers with large caps, it kind of puts into perspective what you can expect with mid and small caps. And it's definitely something that is exciting, and you'll see firsthand of it's not just based on a market point of view. Like, the report is going to show you the market point of view. It's going to show you the on-chain because there's a chart in there that's demonstrating the altcoin trading value in comparison to from 2024 to 2026 of how drastic of a volume we've had compared to 2021. From 2019 to 2021, it's like the comparison is like no other, meaning that the volume we are experiencing today is pretty much highlighting already that the altcoin market is going to be insane. So there's some on-chain analysis, and of course, there's going to be math, and you'll see it firsthand of what I'm trying to refer to. There's only XRP and Ethereum that I went in full depth for because those are the only ones I could go into like so much history when it comes to comparing the price structure with its own dominance. I wanted to do Solana, but unfortunately, Solana's dominance doesn't go too far back, so there's not much history to go based on. I kind of don't like going just based on one comparison. I want two or three comparisons, and I didn't get that with Solana. But yeah, to summarize, circling back with what I was saying, yeah, the altcoins you are going to see currently right now, a lot of difference, like I said, between large caps, mid caps, and small caps, while Bitcoin dominance is climbing. And because it's climbing, not all of them are going to act the same. And you'll see that firsthand. So, with CCD, for instance, I do believe it's bottomed, but it is a possibility that because I think it's a mid cap, I can't remember where its market cap lies. There is a chance that it'll just be going sideways for where it sits now. Does anyone have any questions for me? with anything I said or just with anything?
I think so far they're just saying thanks for the update.
Okay. Alrighty then. Well, I mean, that's all I have, and they'll be coming in your way either tonight or tomorrow morning.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate that. I know you were busy today. We're thankful that you stopped in and were able to jump in at the very end.
Of course.
Okay, well, I think that's it, everybody. Let's see. Yeah, you're welcome, Mark. I mean, really, it's you we should be thanking. I mean, we appreciate y'all showing up, and you're what really makes this fun for us as we get to, talk about things we love to do, and hopefully we're all much better off for it here in a couple of years. That's the goal anyway. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. We're always available in the Discord, of course. You'll feel free to continue to ask questions there. If there's anything else that maybe we missed here and you kind of forgot about it or whatever, you can just post it there. We'll go over it, show some charts or whatever. But in general, we don't know, of course, what Bitcoin dominance is going to do. It could come up here a little bit, and like she was saying, some alts could come back down a little bit, or some could just go sideways. It's very possible that some that are very strong could just kind of have like a sideways consolidation, like we talked about, or a reaccumulation, and then they just keep going and doesn't really give anybody a chance to get in if they missed. So just be careful with that. If you've got a certain amount to allocate for a specific token, and we talked about it at the beginning, if you just want to throw 30% in now and see if there's a pullback and buy some more, that's fine. But I'll try to keep an eye on stuff like that and let you know if I see it pulling back, the market in general. But things are not easy to see in real time like that on a short-term basis. So we'll do the best we can on that. But just accumulate. That's the main message, accumulate. Okay. Thank you, guys. You all have a good rest of your weekend.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, you're welcome.